Welcome everyone to session 12D. We're going to be learning about migration, optimization, modernization. Mom, not your mom. Effective solutions to building a successful data center of excellence. I'm looking forward to this. Kicking us off today, we have Greg Kinney, Chief Revenue Officer of USEReady. As CRO at USEReady, Greg has ultimate accountability in aligning all revenue-generating departments and building strategic partnerships. Prior to USEReady, Greg was a 10-year veteran of the Salesforce ecosystem, where he successfully led sales teams at 3 global strategic Salesforce partners. Greg has had a dynamic career in the enterprise software and services space, which includes founding the internet consulting firm New Media Designs in the mid-90s, and later engineering its merger with Lata. He is a proud alumnus of Duke University, where he received a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. Welcome, Greg. And I would also ask that everyone in audience here have their devices on stun or silent mode, please. And for those people who are online, we're going to make sure we give you a microphone if you have a question to ask. And for those of you who are online and tuned in, if you have questions, please ask and we will get them to the people in the room. Greg, over to you.
Thank you, Stuart. My name is Greg Kinney. I'd really like to introduce my 2 esteemed colleagues here. Jonathan Wray is the COO and founder of a firm called Able, and it's spelled A-I-B-L-E. So as you might guess, it's a exploratory data analytics and generative AI firm. So he's got a perspective on data that's very unique from ours. And then Madhu Bangalore is the Director of Digital Innovation and Data and Analytics for Celanese Corporation. And if you know anything about what Celanese is doing, they're doing some really interesting and dynamic things with their data. We talk about COE, and this is just some background on us. I'm going to skip over that. What we want to really talk about is the challenges that you face with data. We're going to open this up and make it into a bit of a roundtable. So USEReady is a systems integration, a digital transformation firm. We help customers take more advantage of their data, because in a COE environment, it's really about how do you extract the most value out of the data that you have, improve the data quality, improve the data access, improve the decision ability and access to the data. So we talk about on that first slide the MOM concepts, right? It's migrating data to more usable platforms, optimizing the access to it, and then monetizing that data through the decision-making capabilities. So from a use of data, so we help customers all over the place. You guys are a partner of ours. Celanese is a customer of ours. We're happy to partner with you as well. I'll let Madhu start. Talk about what data means to Celanese.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks for inviting me here. And I come from a manufacturing background. So Celanese is, for people who don't know, it's about a $20 billion manufacturing. And for us, manufacturing, what is manufacturing? Making chemicals. We make a lot of chemicals. We make like acetic acid, vinyl acetate. We make food ingredients. We make medical equipments. So when you talk about data and you say, what is data in a manufacturing industry? I can break it into 3 streams, if you will. There is IT data, which we are all very familiar with, information technology data. There is OT data, which is the operation technology, which means the data is at the sites, at the plants, right? Nobody thinks about that, but still there's a lot of data there. Plus there is ET data, engineering technology data. What is engineering technology data? In order for us to stand up these plants, we need these pipings, these drawings, this infrastructure. So there's a lot of data there, and like any other company in the world, even Celanese is going through their digitalization or digitization effort, right? And when we talk about COE, what are we building? We are not building a center of excellence for data. We are building citizens of excellence, which is how do we get the data in its raw format and give it to our users, our business users, to make it more meaningful, more insightful. And why are we doing this? It's all about bottom line, right? How are we delighting our customers? Then what is that for our EBIT and EBITDA, if you will, right? So that is the whole point. When we talk about data and data challenges in a manufacturing industry, we look at it from a holistic perspective with all these three buckets. And also the biggest challenge we face in our industry is, hey, making chemicals is a bread and butter. So data is an last mile problem. But now we don't want to be the laggards in data, right?
Right.
And so which means we want to adapt as quickly as possible and then also get onto this AI bandwagon, right? Everybody are talking about Gen AI. For me, it's all about data and the data governance before we go to Gen AI.
So that's a great cue for Jonathan. Jonathan, like how do your tool sets help companies unlock the value in their data that maybe they can't get at normally?
Yeah, so in the MOM acronym, we're the last M. We really focus on the monetization because so many of the companies you'll talk to here, going through and talking to different vendors, they're talking about storing your data, moving your data, accessing your data. Why do you have to do any of that, right? The only reason to store data, move data, make it more accessible is to monetize it and get value out of it. And that is where we see so many organizations struggling is once you've got the data there, what do you do with it, right? You don't have enough analysts, you don't have enough data scientists, you're not getting those insights to the business in a timely manner. Well, if you get insights to the business too late, how many times, anyone analysts in the room? No analysts.
Couple,
All right.
one or two.
Well, all right. Anybody who's ever worked with analysts, right? Analysts come with these great insights and they tell you about this interesting pattern they found. And oftentimes the response is, that's great. Had you told me 3 months ago, I could have done something about it. All right. So what we've done is really focus in on using AI, both from a generative standpoint and also from kind of more traditional machine learning data analytics, to allow the AI to process and identify those insights, rank order those patterns, and do so in 5 to 15 minutes, right? So you don't have an analytics team spending 3 months trying to find an insight.
Yeah.
Within a single meeting, you can load up a data set while you're having a conversation about a topic and get those insights out real time so that you're actually able to monetize and act at that point of decision with a data-informed insights, as opposed to guess now and find out 3 months later if you got it right or not.
So continuing on that topic, so USEReady is a 5-time Tableau Partner of the Year. We actually were one of the very original Tableau partners 12 and a half years ago. We have a very big Tableau practice. The world of data access over the last several years has been very BI focused, right? Whether it's Tableau, Power BI, or some of the other legacy tools. But the Able tool set there's like a seismic shift going on, and there's a lot of work that goes into set up these reporting and analytics tools. So how does your tool give a quantum leap over, say, what happens with traditional BI?
Yeah, so first of all, we're not going to take away your Tableau, I promise, right? Reporting and dashboards, if you love them, they're here to stay for the foreseeable future. But the critical part is there are two pieces in analytics. There's a reporting piece, tracking your metrics, seeing how things are going over time. But then there's also the actual in-depth analytics, the finding insights, the uncovering those unknown unknowns. That is really where we are disrupting the space. This is our second startup in the space. Our first startup was acquired by Salesforce and became Salesforce Einstein Discovery. We're back at it again, on a 20-year mission now, helping organizations really surface those insights. Because that's the point we find that's still really underserved in the market, right? The dashboard will tell you something's getting better or something's getting worse. The challenge is you need to know why.
Yep.
And what happens in organizations is we guess, right? Or we get into Tableau, we come up with some hypotheses, we run a few filters, and we say, oh, it looks like that thing's driving it. Right? We've worked with a number of large organizations, and what's interesting is the thing they thought was driving those patterns oftentimes isn't.
Right.
And what we're doing is using the algorithms to go in and compare hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of variable combinations to see what's going on. And one of the large healthcare insurance companies we were working with, we were terrified when the first results came back out of Able, because one of the first patterns that Able identified was in stark contrast to what the organization thought to be true about one of the drivers impacting their customers' outcomes. Now, they believed that there was a general trend with an increasing pattern across their entire population. What the Able technology found was it was actually a more severe increase, but only on about a third of the population. And those are the important things. If you just look in a BI world, it looks like, okay, as this metric increases, I see a stair-step increase. But it was absolutely game-changing for them to identify that it was only a small subpopulation, and in that subpopulation, that pattern was even more extreme.
Right.
But instead of focusing on, okay, we're going to treat everybody the same, we're going to think everybody has the same behavior, really being able to understand what microsegments, what groups, what products are actually seeing those patterns is absolutely game-changing.
So do we have many people here out of the manufacturing industry at all? Anybody? Any engineers? So I've been in the data world, software world for a long time, and I was geeking out this morning. Question?
Yeah, can you just go into that last?
Got to get the online people to hear your question.
Yeah, exactly.
That last use case you were talking about, where you got down to, I guess, micro segments or something like that. Tell us, what your product did to be able to do that something. I don't want to butcher it. I think of it as classification or segmentation, but please help.
Yeah, so what's interesting with AI is we're moving beyond a world of segmentation, right? Segmentation is great for our limitations as humans in that we can group people into, say, 5 buckets. And then we can run a standard marketing play, a sales outreach, and so forth. What's happening with AI is it can go through everything, right? It can create hundreds of thousands of segments, and basically the segment becomes a segment of one, right? And that's empowered by the compute, is empowered by the algorithms that are available right now. But the way that it does that is it breaks down all the patterns, all the interactions that exist in the data, and then it starts to figure out which ones are meaningful and which ones aren't, right? And so it ends up hooking into these groupings and these clusters where the behavior happens differently. And then the technology is rank ordering those. Think of it in a simplistic term as kind of a Google search algorithm for what matters, impacting a particular KPI or outcome. That's how it's rank ordering it and presenting it back to users and saying, this is the category that's trending the most severely or seeing the greatest deviation. And so that you get to experience that first, as opposed to our traditional analytics world where you come up with a hypothesis, you turn to the data, you see if the data supports your hypothesis, then you say, I've solved it. Well, you may have found the 10th most important pattern. The AI is going to look at all of them exhaustively. And some of the analyses we do, 25 million variable interactions, you can spend the rest of your career trying to do that manually in Tableau. The algorithms can do it in 15 minutes.
So thank you for the question. The reason I was asking about engineering and manufacturing is I was geeking out talking to Madhu this morning, going back to my days starting in software, the CAD business. He was talking about the digital twin that they're creating.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about how the data environment at Celanese, it's really incredible.
Yeah, as I said, we are embarking on digital twin. So we're creating some AR and VR models of our plant, which means I can sit here and look at the plant on my laptop. So we are also moving away from all these so-called paper assets. Like if I ask, say, Greg, AutoCAD drawings, we have a lot of drawings. Where are these drawings? Somebody's drawers in the shelf, right? So what we are doing is digitizing this, creating our data assets, if you will. Right? What are we getting out of these data assets? Which means when I'm creating these models, my digital twin, I can sit here and look at what's happening. And when you talk about data and also saying that, hey, it's not only current what we are looking at, historical, which is not only the descriptive and the diagnostic, we are looking at the predictive and prescriptive modeling of our data set. So we are working with a company called Cognite for developing a digital twin. So what we are doing is contextualizing the data, creating our AR and VR models. So if I go and look at a particular asset in my plant, I exactly know what's happening with an asset, which means I click on an asset, it gives me all the piping and infrastructure for that asset. And it also based on our digitization effort, which means I can see the work orders. I can see the equipment history. I can see how this compressor is tied to another compressor within the plant. Or we have about 50 plants around the world. So we are expanding, saying which, hey, this is a digital asset. Based on this asset, I can see where it's being used and what is my preventive and prescriptive maintenance for this asset. So we are going to a next level. And also, in addition to that, Boston Dynamic Robos. We have those, which means we are getting away from people going into a particular equipment, taking the readings. We have wearables, right, which means our glasses and our helmets can go and take those readings, and which in turn has our process control towers, if you will, where the data is transmitted, and now they start analyzing the data, if you will. And as you said, a lot of parameters here, thousands and thousands, because the data is coming very fast, real-time data, streaming of the data from my assets, if you will, right? My time series data, my pi tags, which is using real time, my safety instrument sheets. So it is an ocean of data. So when we talk about a digital twin, how do we capture all this and put it together? And finally, what happens to this? Then insights, get your insights, you have your descriptive and diagnostic, then get to the next level of your AI and ML models on top of the data.
Amazing.
So this is what we are doing. A lot of, there are many instances. I was talking to you about one of the cases, like if China introduces a clean air policy, what does it mean to Celanese? I don't know, right? But no, which means the amount of smoke the chimneys can blow out of the air impacts our production. So that is the level of granularity we can get into a digital twin and understand our productions. And we also categorized our manufacturing into 4 different verticals, if you will, like the stewardship, the quality, the reliability, the engagement. So this is how we go and capture our metrics and look at our different metrics and KPIs to build this digital plant.
It's amazing. Do we have folks in here who have been in mergers and acquisition environments where you're dealing with data from various mature organizations? I know Celanese has done a lot of them. You're in the middle of a huge merger acquisition with DuPont right now. How do you guys deal with the complexity of people who have 24-year-old SAP instances versus?
That's what we're going through right now. We had a huge acquisition November of last year. We got DuPont's mobility and material business. It's one of the biggest acquisitions for Celanese. And as you said, in fact, it's a funny story is when I was a consultant before, I put the DuPont's systems 25 years ago. And now it's coming back for me to move to a new S4 environment, which is SAP S4 environment. So that's always a challenge. So it's all about data and profiling. So one mantra what Celanese follows is, I don't want to bring your cats and dogs. We are a bigger company. We are buying you all. You come and start aligning up to our processes, people, and technology, if you will. So that is how we do. Of course, when you talk about data, we talk about master data, transactional data, reference data. So data is huge in our industry. So we go through a lot of data profiling, right? And also, as you were talking about, alluded to the fact earlier, saying, hey, profiling is, we have to come up with baseline. What do we want? What do you have to bring from those systems? I can't bring the 26 years of history from DuPont systems, historical data. So I know there is, so how do I bring the historical data? And in some cases, right now, we need combined reporting from the systems, old system and a new system. Come up with a strategy for combined reporting. Come up with a strategy for the whole data migration.
Right.
So before data migration, you're profiling the data, you're making sure the quality of the data is good, then you bring in the right set of data.
Fantastic.
So yeah, a lot of effort. For me, data is not only data by silos. Data is process, data is people, data is technology.
And so you have some initiatives to try to, non-technically speaking, put a blanket over some of these disparate data sets to make them more accessible, right?
Yeah.
So that's using some NLP tools?
Yeah. So what we're doing is, of course, when somebody comes and asks me for data, I'm like, hey, which system do you want? Do you want from SAP or Salesforce or ServiceNow?
Right.
We want to get away from that. What we want to do is democratize the data with the right governance, which means, hey, we're creating our data meshes and data domains, and thanks to USEReady, you guys are helping us go through the journey. So when a business stakeholder wants his or her data, I'm going to ask them to go to a certain domain, get the data, which means now the power of data is at their fingertips, right? And also I said governance and security because we have IPs, our intellectual properties. We build chemicals, which means we have business bombs, which is bill of materials. We have our recipes. We are discrete and process manufacturing industry.
Sure.
So that is what we are doing. We're building these, and we are building the domains and the cross domains, democratizing the data for our users, so they can start going and accessing the data, building the insights. On top of that, there's one business case which we've gone and built is like we built our own cognitive search, a great selection tool, if you will. And there, if you come and we are mostly B2B, business to business, which means business wants to go and look at a nylon or plastic. Why they want to use it for the seals of Tesla, doors of Tesla.
Right.
Right. So they come in and they type in the nylon or plastic they want. Then we are giving some recommendations. That is where we are building a cognitive search, right? Similarity index, then Euclidean models, and building all those things so that it gives you recommendations. Hey, you're using it for Tesla, and why don't you use it for the washing machine or washer or dryer or your refrigerators? So that is the application which we built. So it has some intelligence built in. In addition to that, it's like, hey, I don't have this particular product. Then what are the other parameters I can go look for?
Exactly.
So you can have your PDFs, your OCR readers go read that, and now it's looking at the inventory or even my product specifications and formulations and saying, hey, you have this product, but this is not the right fit. So which means I have to go build something. For me to build a product is about 18 to 24 months from ideation to execution. So we want to reduce the cycle time of our experimentation.
Right.
That's again, we get onto our AI and ML, where we're building our chemical libraries so that we can start reducing the experimentation cycle time. So the go-to-market is quicker. So these are some of the innovative ways of thinking and doing things in manufacturing industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one more, thank you for that. That's amazing. One more question for Jonathan. So one of the, as a systems integrator, and as a services organization, the bane of our existence is dealing with customers who have poor quality data. And we all know there's a spectrum, right? So there's a variety of things that happen. And one of the things that I found out recently is the Able tool set has a unique ability to score, qualify, grade the quality of the data. Can you just share a little bit of that? Because I was fascinated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess probably, you know, by my benchmark, about 80% of the room's thinking, that sounds really cool. My data's total crap. I could never get there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Little secret, I've done a couple thousand of these projects, and every customer I meet with, the first thing they tell me is their data is terrible. They can't be successful. Right, we are successful over 90% of the time. And what we built is a technology, honestly, just out of frustration. We have a technology called Able Sense. And it comes from the fact that every first conversation we have is talking to a customer who says, my data is garbage. Right? And what we've set up is a technology that you load your data set in, you select a KPI or outcome that you'd like to develop a project around, and our technology will scan it, check for data quality issues. It will then run an AI model immediately. We call ourselves an AI-first company because whether you're engaging with a language model in chat or with our analytics suite, we are getting you to work with an AI model typically within the first 3 minutes of using the Able platform. But that Sense technology in particular, you're going to select a KPI or outcome. You're going to load the data set up raw. You're not going to have to join 50 different systems together. We just start with what you have available. And then it scans through and gives you a really easy 0 to 10 score. It tells you, is this data set good? Is it bad? What are some recommendations we see in it? And over the course of our first engagement with a customer, typically the first 1 hour call, the first 15 minutes we set up their accounts and get them to log in. The next 45 minutes we go through and we work with that data set. We do a few iterations, getting it cleaned up and ready. And then by the end of that hour, we can typically determine, are we going to be able to proceed with a project or not? Right? If the data's not good enough, then we fail fast. We just walk away at that point, or we go focus on a different project. If the data is showing that it has potential, then we set up with what we're going to do over the next few weeks to develop a project. But to your point, what we've realized is 18 months is way too long for many of these engagements. Yeah. And when you have that type of cycle time, when you have that type of heavy lift project, you're only going to get two, three projects done a year.
Yeah.
We really focus on getting projects done in 30 days, getting those knocked out very quickly so we can do several dozen within the course of a year, and also lower that bar, right? Not in terms of quality, but everybody's got a big long list of things they would love to do. And if they're the 18-month heavy lift projects, let's be honest, we're not going to do most of the value-added projects. By lowering that hurdle, we can get to many more and actually go down into some of the projects that are nice to have, but wouldn't be able to justify that kind of investment.
So going back to what I said at the beginning about extracting the maximum amount of value, like it's speed to value. It's all about speed to value. Like today's CDO, like the most that you can deliver to the organization is speed to value. I know we don't have a ton of time left. Do we have any questions for Madhu or Jonathan? Any questions online?
There's no questions online.
Wow.
I mean, one of the comments I want, you said like, we are in our data journey, we still have a struggle, right? It's not like, when I started this exercise, I had a head full of hair. Look at me. So this is all my journey to
It was
data.
all brown. It was, yeah.
So now bald and brown, or gray rather. So yeah, we have our own challenges. So it is a challenge for any organization, data, and the foundation is very important versus just thinking about AI without understanding the literacy and the foundation.
Yeah, one thing I want to put out there as well is, particularly at conferences like this, you hear a lot of the success stories, right? And it's easy to feel like you're a million miles behind. But I can tell you everybody's behind, right? Even though there are successful projects going on in organizations, what we find is that success is usually isolated to a small group, right? These organizations, you've got hundreds of business units that aren't being successful with their data, right? And so if you're feeling at this conference you're far behind, you're never going to catch up, right? These are tools that can help anybody. They're getting better. There are technologies out there. I'll obviously promote mine, but there are many other startups in the space as well, just helping connect people with these tools. And this is just the next step in the data journey, right? Like Tableau would have been revolutionary when it came out, or was revolutionary when it came out. Now it's just a tool. Right? There's a lot of hype around AI. There's a lot of, it's going to both destroy the earth and take all of our jobs, right? They said that about the computer, right? They said that about the internet, right? It's just going to make us more productive. It's going to make our jobs better. And it's really not as scary as you think. It's just something you do have to get involved in, get over that hump, get over the fear, and just start working with it.
Yeah, and I think, there's a lot of talk about ChatGPT, of course, everywhere online. But the tool set, and you do have a generative AI capability.
Yes.
But when you start talking about the underlying exploratory data analytics and what you're doing with the NLP and trying to cross massively different data sets, like that's where the real power is, right?
Right. So, and also last thing I can say is like, hey, we need data ethics for your AI. In our case, when we say about intellectual property, you're going across the boundaries to go and get the data. So you should be very careful in what is that you're going and mining for.
Exactly.
And so that is one thing which I want to bring it to the industry, if you will, manufacturing industry, saying that data ethics, even in your AI ethics, are very important.
Very important. And I know your tool set, unlike a lot of others, has an anonymization capability, right? And you're actually not extracting other people's data. So as you look at these tools and you start doing these kind of things, so I think Ed's got a question in the back.
Yeah, I have a quick question for Madhu, actually. I wonder if you could share some vignettes or some insights, some experiences about how you've used the data for B2B customer engagement or pricing or product cross-sell or upsell. Just bring the plane down to the 5-foot level and real use cases, because I think that's sort of critical.
We talked about that this morning.
Yeah. We are all about B2B, right? How do you delight the customer? It is very important. As I said earlier, the grade selection tool, right? What are we developing this for? This is all for the ease of use, and also when the customer comes in and takes a look at, or there's a request for us, we also want to have the 360-degree view of what we are doing. It's not in silos. Yeah, there is a sales, but in addition to sales, there is S&OP, which is your planning. Then that leads to your manufacturing. How do you plan in your manufacturing? That leads to your uptime of your machines. So there's a whole thing tied up with this. And for us, it's all about delighting the customers. In B2B industries, right, when I'm delighting the customer, what does it mean? Which means I want to increase my EBITDA, right? I want to increase the profitability. I want to make sure the customer is satisfied. If not, then I can come back and delight the customer. So it's all about customers and customers and customers. So though it's a manufacturing industry, which is the back end, the last mile is my customer. That is my front end, if you will. So that is how we break the silos. We bring all the data together, build a 360-degree view. And if you ask me, are we there yet? No. We are still.
Are you using it? Let's say I buy some settles or something like that, or whatever, and then but I want to go now to another product group.
Yeah.
Are you using it to say, okay, this guy's a customer, we have him in this area, but now we're going to route him over to this area to this sales group. Have you gotten to that?
Correct. That's the next one which we're going through, right? So it is not about, and we have many products. So which means, yeah, we have to go through multiple products. And also, when I talk about BOMs, the bill of material, a product is made up of multiple materials. Then how do I tie all those things up? And it goes, and we have two business lines. We have engineering materials and we have acetyls. Some of them can go across the product lines. So all those challenges we are going through right now.
It's hard to steer a $20 billion ship quickly. Right?
Yeah, yeah, and also, as I said, right, data literacy is important.
Yeah.
We are not the early adapters, so how do you bring people into this organization? Forget about cloud. We talk about cloud. For us, the data was sitting within the plants. Even the edge computing was a no-no for us. Now they are slowly, people at the sites, we convince them to open up and move some of the data to the cloud. So those are some of the challenges which we face internally.
Well, thank you very much, Greg and Madhu and Jonathan. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.